Every great civilization begins with a plan. But what if that plan wasn't just architectural? What if the streets you walk, the monuments you admire, and even the skyline you see every morning were all part of a grand design? A map not of stone, but of the human mind. From the ancient temples of Egypt to the Masonic corridors of Washington, D.C., every line, every circle, every obelisk seems to whisper the same secret. Nothing was placed by chance. It's said that geometry is the language of the gods, but in the 18th century, it became the language of men who sought to shape consciousness itself. In 1717, when the first Masonic lodges rose to power, the role of the architect changed forever. From builder to silent manipulator of perception, the domes, the squares, the sacred alignments, they became more than beauty, they became ritual. Look closely at the layout of your own city. Have you ever wondered why certain monuments align perfectly with others miles apart? Why domes mirror the stars? Or why obelisks point to nothing visible, yet everything meaningful? Some call it coincidence, others call it a hidden blueprint, a spiritual circuitry channeling collective thought through invisible pathways. What you'll discover now may surprise you. The map of civilization itself might be a psychological device, a structure designed to mold how we think, move, and believe without us ever realizing it. Symbols, rituals, and sacred geometry, they weren't merely decoration, they were instruction. Write in the comments, "I see the hidden signs." And stay with me, because the deeper we go, the more the pattern begins to reveal itself. Triangles, spirals, and circles. Ancient patterns etched not only into parchment, but into the veins of our cities. They seem to whisper in silence, speaking a language most have forgotten. A geometry once sacred, now hidden in plain sight. From the Rosicrucian diagrams of the 1600s to the Masonic blueprints of the Enlightenment, the same shapes repeat, over and over, like mantras of power cast into stone. Each intersection, each arc, each column, a coded message to the subconscious mind. Psychologists in the early 1900s began to notice something unsettling. Dr. Emil Varga wrote that spatial repetition alters emotional behavior. Streets designed with deliberate rhythm could evoke submission or awe. Domes aligned to the sun could trigger reverence. The architecture itself became an instrument of mind control, not through sound or light, but through space, proportion, and symmetry. You walk through it every day, unaware that your emotions are being tuned like invisible strings. Triangles, the symbol of ascension. Circles of eternity, spirals of evolution and control. Each form speaks directly to something primal, bypassing logic, embedding meaning beneath awareness. Look at the great capitals, Paris, Rome, Washington, London. The same geometry reappears, as if guided by a hidden hand. Were these planners merely inspired by beauty, or were they continuing an occult ritual begun long before their time? A ritual that binds entire populations through design. Psychologists now call it environmental priming, but ancient initiates called it the sacred architecture of influence. The alignment of monuments, the echo of pillars, even the curvature of a plaza, all subtly guide movement, gathering emotion, shaping thought. Hidden symbols become anchors in the collective psyche. You don't need to see them consciously. Your mind already obeys, and perhaps that's the greatest illusion of all, believing that free will exists in spaces built to command it. These symbols were never random. They were chosen, carefully, deliberately, to resonate with forgotten codes of consciousness. Secret societies understood that whoever builds the environment builds the mind that lives within it. Have you ever felt something stirring while standing beneath a massive dome? A strange calm before a monument? That's not coincidence. It's design. Write in the comments, "I will not be controlled." Because what you perceive as architecture might, in truth, be ritual. A city not of freedom but of influence. A world built not to serve you, but to shape you. And yet that's only the surface. What if these symbols were not meant just to influence, but to awaken something hidden within? Walk through Paris at dawn and you feel it. That strange pulse beneath the stones. The way streets twist into themselves. How plazas open like traps. How the horizon always feels just slightly off. Rome hides the same rhythm. New York too. Cities breathing in patterns that mirror something far older than the civilizations that built them. To the untrained eye, they are marvels of design. But look closer and you'll see a labyrinth. Not one built for movement, but for containment. Historians call it urban planning. Psychologists whisper about psychogeography. But in 1946, a declassified document codenamed Project Aurora went further. It proposed that spatial distortion could subtly weaken critical thought, making the individual more compliant, more predictable. A city engineered not for freedom, but for order. Imagine millions walking through invisible corridors of influence, unaware that their roots were drawn to mirror a ritual, a geometry of obedience. Secret societies have always understood the mind's relationship with space. The Masons, the Rosicrucians, even the unseen architects behind post-war reconstruction, they used hidden symbols and sacred ratios not as art, but as instruments of mind control. A plaza shaped like an eye, a cathedral aligned with the sunrise of a forgotten solstice, a tower designed to cast its shadow over the same street every equinox. These are not coincidences, they are occult rituals, disguised as architecture, whispering to the unconscious mind. And as we move through these designs, we are participating in ceremonies we cannot see. Our emotions bend to the curves of the streets. Our sense of time dissolves in the spiral of the city. Have you ever wondered why certain places make you anxious for no reason, or calm without explanation? It's not random. It's psychological influence, written in stone, maintained by those who inherited forbidden knowledge from civilizations long gone. Walkers become subjects. Movement becomes manipulation. The labyrinth doesn't imprison you with walls. It imprisons you with illusion. You are free to wander, but never truly to see. And still, something in you resists. The human spirit senses the pattern, feels the deception, searches for the exit. That spark, the one that questions, that doubts, that awakens, is the greatest threat to this dark agenda. Write in the comments, I will not be controlled. Because even awareness itself disrupts the code. The maze loses its power when the mind begins to recognize its own captivity. Yet the question remains, who built this design in the first place? And if the streets form a labyrinth for the mind, what lies hidden at its center? Behind every monument, every perfect symmetry of stone and shadow, there hides a hand, unseen, deliberate, eternal. Names erased, initials buried beneath centuries of reconstruction, but their patterns remain, echoing through architecture like coded whispers. Etienne Dupont, the Masonic architect of 1798, vanished from official archives shortly after completing the Parisian axis that connects the Louvre to the Arc de Triomphe. His plans, once public, were quietly sealed, and in early Manhattan, a signature appears again, the mark of Brother C, carved discreetly into foundational stones, aligned not with the land, but with the stars. These men were not simply architects. They were initiates, members of secret societies who believed that geometry could mirror divinity, and that through geometry, humanity could be shaped. They called it the Great Work, an ongoing experiment blending art, ritual, and architecture into one grand formula for mind control. The city was their temple, its avenues their altars, its towers the pillars of a living ritual that still vibrates beneath our feet. Each line drawn upon a blueprint held meaning. The proportions followed occult ratios known only to those who had studied forbidden knowledge. The golden section, the vesica piscis, the alignment of sacred points that once defined the layout of ancient temples, the same ratios guiding the Parthenon, the pyramids, and later the White House itself. Coincidence or continuity? Could these hidden symbols be the signature of a single current of power flowing across centuries, adapting, hiding, re-emerging under new names? Dupont's final diary page, recovered decades later, described the architect's role as a servant of the invisible architecture. He wrote that to build is to summon, that every alignment of stone called forth unseen forces meant to preserve balance or impose it. And when Brother C mapped the grid of Lower Manhattan, his design mirrored Orion's belt. 3 stars, 3 primary avenues, an ancient code repeated across continents, suggesting that the same ritual intention guided both plans. If cities are instruments of psychological influence, then their creators were engineers of thought itself. What if every monument serves as a node, a receiver, channeling human emotion, belief, and collective energy back to a source we cannot see? That would make the world itself a ritual in progress, its builders custodians of something more than culture, perhaps a mechanism of control. But who gave them the blueprint? Who whispered these proportions, these alignments across centuries and continents? Were they preserving sacred knowledge or enforcing a dark agenda hidden behind beauty and order? Some say these secret societies merely inherited what ancient priests once knew. Others believe they were guided by something beyond human, an intelligence from the unseen, concealed within myth and symbol. Whatever the truth is, the evidence lies all around us, carved in marble, cast in iron, glowing beneath streetlights we mistake for ordinary. The architects behind the curtain may have vanished from the records, but their work endures. Every dome, every corridor, every silent alignment still follows the same code. And perhaps the greatest secret isn't what they built, but what, or who, it was built for. The ancient blueprint never disappeared. It only evolved. What once was carved into stone and aligned with the stars is now etched into circuits, satellites, and invisible networks of light. The modern grid of control doesn't rely on marble or compass. It lives in data, algorithms, and silent architecture that watches, measures, and responds. The same patterns that guided temples and monuments now shape entire smart cities. Streets have become sensors, towers hum like modern obelisks, and every device you hold connects you to an invisible cathedral of information. Vast, intricate, and alive. In 2025, the Global Urban Design Charter was quietly ratified. Its language spoke of sustainability, efficiency, and digital harmony. But behind its noble tone were names linked to private think tanks tied to the Tavistock Institute, an organization long rumored to study mass behavior, social conditioning, and collective manipulation. Coincidence, perhaps, yet its fingerprints appear wherever human emotion meets engineered environment. They call it behavioral architecture, but those who understand the symbols know it by another name, the new ritual of control. These architects no longer build walls, they build perceptions. The boundaries of thought, the flow of information, the rhythm of light and noise, all sculpted with precision. Every camera perched above an intersection isn't just for safety. It's part of a vast neural network, a living organism of observation. Every plaza redesigned with minimalist symmetry doesn't only reflect modern taste. It channels psychological influence through geometry, light, and rhythm. Every digital billboard flashing images faster than your mind can consciously register serves as a silent invocation, bypassing reason, embedding suggestion. We once believed cathedrals were built to reach the heavens. Now skyscrapers reach into the cloud, both literal and virtual, connecting to servers that store the thoughts, habits, and secrets of billions. What if these towers, gleaming in glass and steel, are the temples of a new faith? A faith without gods, but not without worshippers. Because each click, each swipe, each step through a city grid contributes energy, data, to an unseen altar. And those who built it understand the power that comes from it. The geometry remains the same. Triangles of surveillance networks, circles of influence in urban zoning, spirals of connectivity tightening around every human life. The ancient codes of sacred architecture reborn through modern infrastructure. It's a system that doesn't need chains, because it programs obedience through design. Convenience becomes devotion, speed becomes sacrifice. The ritual continues, invisible, efficient, complete. Tavistock's early experiments claimed that when environment, repetition, and suggestion combine, resistance weakens. People cease to notice control when it's disguised as comfort. The shadows no longer need to hide. They simply illuminate themselves with neon. And so, our cities pulse not with freedom, but with orchestration. We walk through grids that watch us, talk to us, learn from us. Cities that breathe back our own behavior until we can no longer tell where we end and the system begins. Have you ever stood at a crossroads and felt a strange silence, as if the city itself was thinking? That's not your imagination, it's response. The sensors, the cameras, the algorithms, all interpreting, predicting, shaping. This is the modern occult ritual, a synchronization between mind and machine, humanity, and its mirrored reflection in data. The new architects don't wear robes or draw pentagrams. Their symbols are in fiber optics, code, and corporate logos. Yet the essence is the same: control through unseen design. If our ancestors built cathedrals to reach God, what gods are being served now by towers of steel and glass? What invisible pantheon feeds on our connection, our dependence, our submission? Perhaps the greatest illusion of all is that we built this world ourselves, when in truth, it may have been built for us, to keep us walking, watching, and worshipping the unseen. But that's only the surface. The question that remains is not how they built it, but why. And what happens when the grid no longer just observes, but begins to think for itself? Beneath the streets you walk every day lies another city, one you were never meant to see. A labyrinth of tunnels, sealed chambers, and forgotten corridors that hum with a silence older than civilization itself. Beneath the pavement of Paris, beneath the catacombs of Rome, beneath the steel skeleton of New York, the same patterns repeat. Circles within circles, passages carved in the image of the human brain. They say it was for transport, for storage, for war. But what if it was something else? Something ritualistic? What if these underground networks were built not to protect us, but to program us? Old maps, rarely published, show alignments between these tunnels and the great monuments above them. Obelisks, cathedrals, government buildings, all connected through invisible lines, forming what initiates once called the mind beneath the mind. In secret archives, fragments of hermetic texts describe underground spaces as mirrors of consciousness, where geometry was used to alter perception and will. The ancients believed that by shaping the environment beneath the surface, they could shape the thoughts of those living above it. The architecture of control wasn't just visible, it was embedded deep below, where awareness never reaches. Archaeologists still find anomalies. Circular rooms designed like the human cortex, chambers with perfect acoustic resonance capable of inducing trance states. In one such discovery beneath Prague, symbols of secret societies were carved into the walls. The all-seeing eye, the serpent Ouroboros, and spirals radiating from a central point, not decoration, direction. When light touched those symbols, reflections formed patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. Some claim it was part of an occult ritual meant to synchronize the individual with the collective, binding thought to architecture. The body above the ground, the mind below it. Every city carries this dual anatomy. Above, order, light, movement. Below, ritual, silence, shadows. It's the perfect metaphor for mind control. What you see gives comfort, while what you don't see commands. The streets invite you to wander freely, unaware that every turn echoes an ancient code, a psychological influence woven into space itself. Even the placement of public squares, the curvature of bridges, the rhythm of lights, all part of a hidden choreography, orchestrated to keep consciousness contained within predictable limits. Once you begin to notice it, everything changes. Every building starts to whisper. Monuments that once inspired awe now feel like sentinels. You sense the alignment of spires pointing toward unseen constellations, the hum of power lines forming energetic grids, the repetition of symbols across glass and steel, and suddenly, the city no longer feels alive. It feels aware, watching, breathing, reacting. Some researchers call this phenomenon the subconscious grid, a network not of machines, but of intention. A living architecture built over centuries, designed to channel emotion and energy through ritual geometry. The deeper you go, the stronger it becomes. Ancient codes, reactivated through modern construction. What was once buried is now reborn, hidden beneath technology, language, and concrete. And perhaps that's the final revelation. Control doesn't need to shout. It only needs to whisper from below. You walk, you work, you live above a system that hums with forgotten power, a network of unseen architects still guiding thought from the depths. But awareness is the fracture in the design. Once you see the pattern, you can never unsee it. Once you question the structure, it begins to tremble. So ask yourself, is the city protecting you or programming you? Because if the true architecture lies beneath the surface, what else might be waiting there, still awake, still observing, waiting for us to remember? If you've reached this point, it means you felt it too. That subtle pull beneath the surface, the whisper that the world is not what it seems. The patterns, the alignments, the coincidences that no longer feel like chance. Knowledge like this isn't just information, it's initiation. Each truth revealed changes the way you see everything that surrounds you. Every shadow, every symbol, every silent corridor of power. If this exploration stirred something in you, Leave your mark below. Write, "I see the hidden truth." Let it be your signal to others who are beginning to awaken, a reminder that awareness is spreading, quietly, inevitably. And if these revelations resonate with you, stay close to this circle. Subscribe so you don't drift back into the noise. Each video pulls another thread in this vast web of hidden symbols, mind control, and forbidden knowledge, connecting you to a deeper understanding of the world that was built around us. A simple like is more than support. It's a spark that tells the algorithm of shadows that truth still matters, that curiosity still breathes. There's always another layer beneath what you've just uncovered. Another secret waiting just beyond the frame. So keep your eyes open, your mind steady, and your curiosity alive. The next revelation is already waiting. Somewhere in the grid, glowing faintly, calling to those who can see the signs.